Once upon a time, there lived a desert. This desert was vast. It stretched from one end of the horizon to the other. Beings in this desert would wake up in the morning and they could walk all day following the sun. And when it set again, they would still be in the desert. And the desert was warm. And the sand hugged the feet of the beings as they moved across the desert. Beings would take breaks, and little ones would nestle up in dunes and build castles, mountains. Some got lost. They tumbled down into the sand. I don't know that they were ever heard from again. Some say that there are beings, creatures who live deep, deep, deep down, who find these beings, these babies, these children, and they bundle them up in warm honey that pools below the earth and nourishes these creatures. And so when the beings above ground move and follow the sun, these creatures below drench themselves in honey, and they sup, they feed each other, they feed themselves, and these babies, these beings that they've found, nourished, and wrapped themselves around, they just sort of stare, confused at the grace that they're being given, at the love and the abundance of these complete, to their mind, monsters, these strangers who give freely, abundantly, without question, to those who quite literally walk all over them. Over time, the beings and babies grow, and they grow stronger on this honey. They're eventually shown and begin to understand the networks beneath the ground and how these creatures have a whole world that is expansive and connected. And these beings begin to accumulate knowledge from this honey, this liquid that they're imbibing. And they begin to realize that not only are these creatures connected through these networks and these corridors and these tunnels, these pathways, these beings are connected through this honey that they eat. And the beings also begin to notice how strong they feel, how sharp and smart and expansive they feel. And they begin to question how, with such beautiful, expansive networks and beautiful, delicious honey that is just abundant, how is it that above, the similar transient nature, there's desolation? These beings begin to realize that what they were taught, what little they were taught about how the desert came to be, why they travel, why no one returns for the babies. These beings are a little frightened at the questions that they're asking themselves, at the answers that they already know. And they begin to seek each other out. They begin to create their own networks. Networks which honor where they come from, which honor where they are, which recognize that a different path is needed moving forward. These beings are confused and begin to feel a bit restless. Now, the creatures who took them in, showed them the pathways, healed them with the honey. They sense this agitation. Are familiar with this discomfort that comes from questioning, from pushing and growing. And these creatures soothe the beings and reassure them that these are just growing pains. Remind them that what they need, how to move forward is a truth that's inside of them. Not only is it inside of them because of who they are inherently as a part of this, this world, this ecosystem. These creatures remind these beings that they've taken part of this medicine, of this honey. They've moved through these pathways and these corridors, and they've learned to expand and to open, to question and to honor. And so, as they move forward and continue to network and to build, returning to source of the knowledge, source of the wisdom, source of the change. Is how to return to ease. These beings, they feel a little resistant at first, a little mistrustful. See, they're used to the desert. They're used to being discarded, forgotten. They're used to rising in the morning and walking until the sun sets. With little to no change. So this promise of continued movement, of continued abundance and expansion is frightening. And they decide that they need to take some time. They need to take some time to think and to breathe and to really question how this came to be, who they are. They realize they're no longer babies. They're beings. They realize the creatures are not monsters. They're also beings. And they find themselves at a bit of a loss. A little bit confused. And they're tired. Their head hurts. Their body aches. And then they notice a familiar smell. They've made their way unknowingly to a pool of this delicious honey, this nectar, and it seems to be calling to them. It seems to be whispering. And they approach it. They allow themselves to sort of curl into it. And they reach out a hand and scoop some honey And they wonder how they never noticed how warm and smooth and unctuous it is. And they bring it to their lips and they feel life spread through their essence. And they allow themselves to weep.